Crypto has just seen its second DeFi summer moment here in 2025. Let's go ahead and see if this is actually streaming here. Get some likes in the chat, and then we'll jump into the main section of today, which is to say that, in my opinion, the time is ticking before the meat of the bull market begins. If you can see this, go ahead, smash that like button. I'm going to go ahead and check. Oh, it looks like we are indeed live. How's everybody in the chat? Shout out to the live chat. I'm going to go ahead and kill this tab now that I see we're live. Now, of course, what I want to say here is that the DeFi summer moment that we experienced recently, in my opinion, is a signal of what will be coming in just the next few months here in crypto land. I'm going to be going through my case for why I think that not only the cycle is not over, but that we're experiencing, many different signals that show that we are forming a bottom here on this recent washout. Of course, alts have been absolutely obliterated, destroyed. Like that like button, so please hit that like button. But the altcoin market has just been in absolute free fall. We'll be talking a lot about alts at the end of the video, talking about specific altcoins that I think have shown very interesting behaviors. And of course, I'll tell you why I haven't really changed anything about my philosophy. I mean, if you guys have noticed here, it's been coming up, it'll be 3 years by the end of this year that I have just stuck with a very simple philosophy of picking leading narratives, grabbing coins that I think have significant traction in those narratives and just holding them throughout volatility, just like now. And one of the things I'll also be talking about is how much easier it is to spot bottoms on charts here. Something that I heard Jason Pizzino talking about, which is absolutely true. Actually, some of the best traders in the industry that I've spoken to agree that it is so much easier to spot market bottoms than market tops. As we've seen recently, spotting local tops or significant market tops can be really, really hard. Whereas spotting market bottoms is much, much easier. You can just easily tell when things are oversold, when the fear is just rampant, when it's just out of control. And that's honestly the best time. I'm going to see if I can see the chat here. I'm using a new streaming software, so bear with me. If you guys are excited for this, please smash up those likes, smash them up. And I'm going to go ahead. I think I'm going to have to bring up the chat in another window here because I can't see it here on this streaming software. Or if I can, I'm not clicking on it right. I'm sure I can. At any rate, I'm going to jump in here to the actual video. I'm going to see the chat. What's going on, everybody? All right, hit that like button. Let's jump into this. Let's jump into this. Okay. Here we go. So this is what you're seeing here. I'm going to switch it around so I'm looking at it. We have our crystal ball here. I said that we'd rally to 120K by inauguration. Just checking one more time to make sure the comments are all, everything looks good. Shout out to everybody. I said we'd rally to 100K by inauguration and that would be a sell the news event. That was wrong, clearly. Well, might not be. We still have inauguration a little bit ahead. We rallied to 108 and we sold off from there. But we sort of fit a pattern similar to rallying up and then having a massive sell-off back to 90K, which is where I thought we'd sell off back to, because my logic was very simple, that 100K, violating that 100K sort of very psychological level would drive people crazy, and that you'd want to see something kind of scary below that. And that's what we've seen. And this little dip sort of under 90K that we've seen today kind of goes hand in hand with that. It shows that, pretty much we are seeing the same thing play out. I still think we're going to see an alt season. We'll talk about that later, and we'll get to the rest of these predictions. But effectively, this concept here that we'd rally up into January and then sell off to 90K, that more or less is playing out. Obviously, not to the moment, not to the picosecond. I definitely didn't think alts would sell off this hard, but that to me doesn't change anything except for showing that we are still in PvP mode. We are not exiting the actual player versus player mode of this market yet. And then we will move into new zones once we start making sustainable roads in 2025. I'll talk to what that means, right? So the DeFi summer moment that I've been talking about is pretty simple. In 2020, we had this new tech advancement in DeFi. And mind you, there were little runs in DeFi throughout 2019, but the market was just so dead, it's not really worth bringing up. But 2020, we saw this explosive rise of DeFi, new tech innovation, and there was a sort of pico top that occurred in late 2020 summer. And it really seemed like everything was going up. It was so degenerate. And then the market crashed and people sort of felt like that was it. And it didn't stop DeFi from going on and having a much bigger later stage of the bull market. But what's important to realize is that it was a single tech innovation that pushed forward more interest in crypto. And that's where I think that you can make a correlation. And that's where I think that the smart correlation is. Now, of course, I want to take a second here and talk about this. I'm here in LA, and this has been a very hard week for me. I haven't been able to make content. Obviously, most of you guys know what's been going on here. These images, I wish that these images were not what they are, but they are absolutely crazy. And let me go ahead and see if I can make this. Oh, I thought I could play with the size here. Oh yeah, I can. Here we go. There we go. This is like a neighborhood that I would frequent when I was younger. I had friends over in the Palisades, and this is just nuts to see this. These images feel like they're out of some kind of video game, maybe not even a real video, but a video game. This is an utter hellscape. And so, yeah, I mean, sometimes life intervenes, and obviously you guys have all been seeing the fires. So, I had to evacuate my parents, and they're listless. Certainly not. You're seeing people, reunited with their pets after 5 days. Just crazy stuff. I mean, the imagery, it doesn't look real. Matthew play in a space game or like some dystopian future game. Doesn't look like what you'd expect. And I did tweet a few times. I know that I pretty much have vowed to stop talking about politics since the election. But, the politics of what just happened are pretty bad from what it seems. I don't want to jump to conclusions here. But I did want to say, why does it always look like Gavin Newsom is smiling every time he's talking about this stuff? I don't get it. I don't get why he's cheesing here. Anyway, there's going to be a lot of hard questions personally. I'm still pretty upset. So you might hear me talk about the LA fires and the government response. I think that it all plays into a larger idea of we're in an era where all groups, all walks of life have had to reimagine their own relationship with government and ask different questions. And those questions are going to start leading to wildly different changes, the step function changes in society. In Los Angeles, you have a group of otherwise pretty isolated, pretty bubbled off groups of people that would never have to have these tough conversations. And they're going to be asking tough questions about what happened with their government. And I know it's really I don't like to politicize things right as they happen, but this is going to be a very, very interesting moment in time where I think you're going to see a period of rapid change, not just in Los Angeles, but across the world. We're seeing it with the new presidential administration. We're going to see it here in Los Angeles in response to this what is the biggest natural disaster in history. I'm going to play a little bit of this clip that Pomp shared. I think that it's actually a really good one. And go ahead and pull this up here. Let me know if you guys can hear the sound all right.
The craziest part about the LA fires is that it's now not only the most expensive natural disaster in US history, but on top of that, the government has failed the people, and they're putting the burden on other citizens to bail out those that are affected. Let me explain. First, we can see that nearly 40,000 acres has been burnt. We also know that more than 12,000 structures have been destroyed. There's 150,000 people or more that have been displaced and had to evacuate. And now there's more than 24 people who have died. The estimated cost is somewhere between 150 to $200 billion in order to go ahead and help LA rebuild. But the crazy part is that the government doesn't have enough money to actually provide the support and relief that's needed in this scenario. Rick Caruso, who formerly ran for the LA mayor and lost, he had to donate $5 million to the LA Fire Department's foundation in order to get them supplies on the front lines. He has called for another $15 million to be donated by the public in order to help the firefighters get the supplies they need on those front lines.
And so you hear here, what Pump's saying is pretty simple, which is the private citizens have stepped up to effectively save what should not be a private sector need to. You shouldn't have individual neighbors needing to save the city, right? The point is you have this extremely expensive place to live with extremely high taxes, and the response was just completely inadequate. And not that the price is everything, but there's just a lot of, I think, optimism and naivete about what's going on in government, and that mask is being ripped off. And there's going to be a lot of what I think of as hard revelations from this. And this plays into just this concept that I have in my head of, you know, exponential change. I think that's the real concept that I'm, considering here, which is we are living in an era of exponential change. And with AI, with crypto, and now with the rapid change of how we see and interact with government and the types of demographics that now have issues with government, it's spreading. It's spreading very, very fast. And so it's going to be an interesting next few years. And I just wanted to kind of show the types of things. I didn't want to play this whole video, but there's a lot of things happening right now that I think are going to contribute to the next 5 years or so being a period in which by 2030, the world looks almost nothing like it did in 2020. So with that said, I just wanted to kind of take a moment here and go over this stuff because it's just been a crazy week. So I wanted to vent that stuff and kind of just connect with you guys as to why I'm not chiming in on what has been a horrible bloodbath here in crypto. If you guys want my up-to-date stuff, please follow me on X. I'm obviously tweeting a lot faster. In those types of situations, I can tweet, but I can't really make a video like this all the time. So definitely follow me on X if you want my up-to-date thoughts all the time. But I did find this, pretty apt, pretty apropos, if you will. You have CZ here tweeting, and this was back in December 17th, 2020, right? This is almost exactly 4 years ago to the day. Waiting for the headline, Bitcoin crashes from 101,000 to 85,000. Save the tweet. And we did save the tweet. And someone surfaced this, which is, of course, to say, this is how the parabolic growth cycles of crypto always are. They're very, very punishingly volatile. And that's why you have to have these unemotional plans at the beginning of the cycle. And I believe that my strategy here of picking narratives, picking coins, and having predetermined sort of points in which you're going to take profits, that is without a doubt the simplest way that I can think of to extract the vast majority of benefits. Obviously, there's going to be people who rapidly rotate from narrative to narrative, who trade with exponential leverage and risk, who end up extracting more value. But the simple way to do this is just to pick the vast majority of value accrual and to sort of allocate to it in a simple way and an unemotional way. And that's why it's now been over 2 years now, or coming up on 2 years now, that I won't have touched any of my positions really. I've only added. And obviously that's put me in a position where I don't really have new money to deploy on dips like this. But obviously I say buy the dip because that's what I believe is the right course of action. Now, that said, we finally have some good news, which is that Jim Cramer here says, total washout incoming, truly hideous opening. And we're going to talk a little bit here about why this is happening. And this is, of course, because we've now had a bear steepener, which is the uninversion of the 2-year and or of the 3-month and 10-year bonds. Now, obviously, you guys probably know all this by now, but this whole yield curve is a way to track, hey, does the long-term interest rates, how do they compare to the short-term interest rates? Now, these 3 months are set by the Federal Reserve. That means that the government is essentially saying, here's what the interest rate should be, and that's how they control inflation or stimulate the economy. Now, usually this is way less than this. Because of course, if you land out your money for 10 years, you're expecting a higher return than 3 months. You shouldn't get a higher return for a short-term action than a long-term action. It's just very simply, longer commitment should be more money in theory, right? I'm just going to check the comments to make sure everything is, everything's good. Shout out to you guys. Okay. So you shouldn't get a higher payout for a shorter term action. That's just not the reality. But while it's under this zero range right here over the last few years, it actually has been. Now, the reason why that is because they're trying to bring down inflation. They're trying to strengthen the dollar, drive people back into the dollar. So people are buying the dollar to get access to these interest rates. And now once sort of this uninversion happens, usually that's a sign that, of course, okay, now long term, they think the rates are going to be higher, and short term, they have to now drop them to stimulate the economy. That means that is more of a stimulatory effect, which in the past has indicated a recession. Now, we've talked about in recessions, these little gray boxes, they're pretty useless because they are determined after the fact. Usually way after the recession even ends, do you hear of when the recession began? And so these statistics are not useful in the forward looking. They're only useful in the retrospective, which to traders is useless. These sort of gray boxes are useless. Now the question is, are we going to plunge into recession? And it's kind of crazy because the reason why this all happened is because the economy came in doing really well. And so that means that people think that there won't be rate cuts. Here, let me actually pull that up. But there's a huge amount, there's $7 trillion sitting in money funds right now, right? As soon as the market starts really showing that there's not going to be this massive return from sitting in money market funds, And I wanted to put this on your agenda here. There is a wealth transfer coming from baby boomers. It's not going to happen this year, but this is where things are headed, right? There's all this money sitting, collecting sort of coupons from the government. There's $84 trillion that's going to be handed over from the baby boomer generation. And where we are today is in prehistory of Bitcoin. And so what we saw here again, and I had this marked off, and even today, the price action got way, way crazier than I thought it would get. Let me see if I can get this. No, I can't show the axis here. But anyway, you have here the price action from today. And what you'll see here is that we violated to the downside this $91,000 mark. Actually, I think I can get it over here. Yeah, let's do that. You see here, we have this $91,000 support, and that comes from this December 31. This is the low from late December. So everyone's saying, okay, we have this low that we can't violate. And if we go down here, it's all over. And there's this constant like cycle of people saying it's all over, we're so back. And one of the things I wanted to point out here, and I have like a tab that prompts me to talk about this, is we have this concept of pro-tail. Now, pro-tail is what is a term that's used for professional retail. So they might not have institutional backing. They might not be professional shops or whatever, but these are professional level traders. Like, look at my buddy Crown. This is a quant. These are people who have advanced systems, who are trading with really, really high tech mechanisms. These are not your average punters that just log onto Robinhood and start punting longs, right? And so this concept of pro-tail makes it so that whenever there are these massive lines in the sand, like we're seeing with this 91,000, this low right here, there is this temptation to essentially bust below it and create these wicks below it and liquidate all the people who lever long here. Because there's a ton of people who just say, okay, I'm going to lever long like right here. I'm going to put my leverage here because I know that it's all over if we go below that line. So I'm going to leverage long, saying we're probably going to go up here. And if we go below here, I'll just be liquidated. And so they put a lot of leverage that will liquidate them right here, knowing that if it's there, it's all over. We probably won't go below there. So they try to make the most amount of money with these degenerate longs. And that pro-tail creates, to me, in essence, it removes the value of these lines, right? Because essentially you have professionals kind of trying to psych out professionals by moving below these particular lines like we just saw today. Everyone's freaking out saying, oh my God, we just violated it. This is it. It's over. Market's changing. And they try to do this because the market is not just composed of sort of passive casual traders, but a lot of very advanced traders. And that's why, to me, as we saw sort of over the last cycle, we saw that continually throughout this period in 2023 or 2024 rather, where we constantly have, lower lows and everyone freak out every time we create a lower low, saying, you know what, this is a bear market. This is a downtrend, only to create a higher low and then another higher low and then sort of explode upwards. And so what I think, you have to do here is understand the game, and you have to think a little bit less rigidly about these price levels being it's all over or we're so back. And you have to think, where is liquidity going to come from? And is there more liquidity coming or less? And obviously, when you think about it from a macro standpoint, I think you get to better conclusions. And that's why I'm a firm believer that even though we violated this prior low, we haven't violated the bull market structure. Obviously, if you look at Bitcoin and you look at the mainstream markets, you'll see they look almost identical, over the last few weeks, or pretty much, the last few weeks here. You see that these are almost the same chart. This is the S&P 500. So it's not just Bitcoin that's like all of a sudden not popular. This is a sell-off. And of course, you guys have probably seen this, but the S&P now is plunging here to extreme greed. Like, we never see extreme greed. Like, this is stocks, right? So, extreme fear rather. And so when you see extreme fear in markets, it's very symbolic that things might either be about to go horribly or that they've already gone horribly and that people are now just emotionally catching up. And usually it's the latter, especially in times where you see a government that has the desire to stimulate and support assets. I mean, we know for a fact that the people that are in Trump's administration, their policies are market stimulus. They want to see a weaker dollar. And the dollar is extremely, extremely strong right now. The Dixie has been up only. So there's plenty of room to weaken the dollar here and to drive money into markets, to drive money out of these T-bill markets, these treasury bill markets, and into the main economy. That's what essentially Trump's people that he has put into positions, that's their worldview. So people are policy. And so that's what's going to be happening with the upcoming administration. So this is a joke, but CL the cat says, be fearful when everyone else is fearful, which is essentially what everyone else is doing right now. They're being fearful while everyone else is fearful instead of greedy while other people are fearful. Now, I know a lot of you people might be saying, we get it, L. Like, we're supposed to buy when people are fearful, but we spent all of our last coins on this last run up. We're out of coins. If that's true, that's fine. Then you're in my bucket, which is I'm holding my cards because I like the coins I'm in. And I'll tell you a little bit why I like the coins I'm in at the end of this episode, and why these market plunges, while this one felt extra bad because of all the calamity in Los Angeles, and for the first time a real genuine fear that this, everything I knew about my hometown might be wiped away. But I didn't feel the same thing about crypto. I just felt kind of annoyed by it and kind of sad, obviously, that it was so bearish. Obviously, this goes hand in hand with the Fed essentially saying that they're no longer going to cut interest rates. And interest rate cuts are definitely bullish for markets, but I don't think that they are the only thing that can stimulate markets. I mean, we know that there are a lot of ways that markets can be stimulated. We've only seen 1 or 2 cuts to 100 basis points. So we're up way more in interest rates than we were back in 2020 and 2021, yet markets are way higher. So this isn't the only factor here, although I do think that the Fed and their credibility has become quite an interesting topic, and we'll see what happens over the Trump administration. But I think predicting all this stuff beyond the next couple of rate cutting cycles is very difficult. We've seen that this changes constantly. So this is essentially what's driving the market to sell off in Bitcoin and S&P. And you're seeing headlines like this, like Bank of America is effectively saying there won't be any rate cuts. And so instead of a rate cut cycle, that's it. They're saying that's going to be it. And we all know the big banks are never wrong, right? And so this is just, essentially to give you some perspective here. The 10-year, which is essentially, people consider this the neutral rate for, this is the market-driven rate. So the markets determine the 10-year, not the Fed. And it hasn't really been this high. Obviously, it peaked up here at the end of 2023. But before that, it hadn't been this high since the great financial crisis, right? This is the last time it was like this. So people are making comparisons to the great financial crisis, saying, okay, is this the same? Obviously, nothing is ever the same. So getting back into the meat of the content here, there are a lot of bottom signals. Like I said, picking bottom signals is easier than top signals. And we could be wrong. Like, I could be wrong. I've always had the philosophy here that I could be very wrong. And that's why I hold my coins. Again, I want to reiterate this. I hold my coins for years with this channel, because if I'm wrong, then guess what? I don't win if you don't win. That's the concept here, is that if we all get excited about a coin, sometimes that sugar high can last for a short period of time, but doesn't last for 2 years. And so the concept here is that I'm riding whatever philosophical concepts I put on this channel with you guys. Now, okay, with that said, I agree with what Nick says here. It's very far away from the overheated nature that we saw in 2021. Very, very far from 2017. So from a market cycle top, if you use any conventional metrics, we are nowhere close. So he says we'd have to be at 150K today for us to be matching the same thing as March 2021. December 2017 or November 2013 or April 2013. So this time is not different. Please stop panicking during the first full trading week of a new year. Again, there's been a lot of rebalancing in mainstream markets, in crypto, and a lot of crypto's become a mainstream market with it being listed on the S&P 500, with it being listed in the ETFs. Not the S&P, sorry. With it being listed in the ETFs, it's trading with the big institutions. So a lot of big institutions took a lot of profits at the end of last year because it was the second consecutive major upside year. We also see here that, like, YouTube reviews, while they did peak up a little bit here, you can see this is nowhere close to where they were in 2021 at the peaks. This is just nowhere close to the bull market levels. We never even came close to that. And usually each bull market, there's way bigger peaks of viewership. I would be shocked if this chart doesn't look just like Bitcoin's chart when it comes down to, or the crypto total 3 chart. This is actually probably a very good comparison to the crypto total 3. Let me pull that up. Let me see if I can get a weekly chart here. All right, so crypto total 3 is a little higher. It made a little bit of a higher high, but you can see that these YouTube views correspond very significantly to altcoins. Let me see if I can get back there. Yeah. At any rate, we didn't really break out of this trend. We're still below this 2 million views per day sort of channel, which is bear market territory. You saw that we hit that in January 23. We hit that in we were sort of ebbing and flowing around these levels throughout 2023, early 2024, when the ETFs got approved. So this is by no means overheated territory from a social metric standpoint. And social metrics are very useful for this stuff. I'm expecting for us to spend a lot of time significantly above the prior peak of YouTube views. You saw this last cycle for sure. So I think you'll see it this cycle again. Shout out to a new account I've been following. Check out Doug Funny. Not just because he's Doug from Doug Funny. That's one of my favorite childhood shows, but he's been putting out some good content. I mean, look, the RSI here is very oversold on the daily. Just keeping in mind, it's easier to pick bottoms than tops. I talked about ProTail. And we just keep seeing like these utter disappointments. I mean, ETH has been the most miserable coin I've ever imagined this cycle. Obviously, I still hold ETH. I think it'll have a great 2025, but it has just been a punishment this cycle to hold ETH. And the memes just write themselves. Cousin says, might have been the last chance to buy Bitcoin sub 90,000 until the next bear market. If it wasn't, I will simply delete the tweet. I have not seen the fellas down this bad in a very long time. Bottom indicators flying left and right. Pro crypto president soon. I don't know if that was the bottom, but this will be close. For what it's worth, I mean, Crown, I've been following his TA. It's been really, really good. Obviously, he's not a crystal ball man, but he gives us a pretty good probability of what happens the next day. And he's been saying that this sort of high 80s range is where he sees at least a touch or reconnect before making new highs in February. That's been his base case. And again, that would fit with a massive sell-off in January and a return to bullishness in February, this time with the Trump administration in office, which would be very, very, very powerful. We're going to talk about some of the early decisions that Trump has made already. We have Intuito saying this is the end. This is the beginning of the end. Block all the bears, delete trading view. We're going higher, much higher. Total meme coin market. He's big on memes. Obviously, I have some of the leading memes. We'll talk about that at the end. That's not the point of this one. Here, I'll just show you guys this one right now. This was cinematic. I don't know if I'm going to get my my video demonetized on YouTube for this, but
He is the one.
You cannot pass!
Dracarys.
all right. Enough of that. Anyway, cinematic memes, that's going to get us through. But let's get to this. This is the best part about today. And one of the main parts about why it's hard for me to really understand why everyone's so bearish. Obviously, alts have been beaten. I understand being down bad. Certainly, I'm not checking my portfolio today. But there's been some massive early wins here. And we're hearing here that David Sachs has already started to get crypto legislation in order. David Sachs being the crypto czar. I don't know if you guys follow the All In Pod with Chamath and David Sachs. You probably do. Maybe if you don't, he's a big crypto Silicon Valley guy, massive early investor in things like Solana. And look, he's here to kick ass and to move the rock. He knows what needs to be done here. And this is what you want. When I'm talking about people or policy, Sachs is already out here making the steps, doing the things before he even takes office to get legislation passed that will provide clarity and stop debankings. I don't know if you guys were following the whole debanking thing, but being an American in the crypto industry is not a comfy place to be, especially as you're hearing that clients are just being said, okay, you just got to go. Sorry, we don't want your business. So these types of little steps being the first things you see shows that this is going to be a major priority for Trump. And Trump also understands this very basic concept, which is that if you have one of the most powerful lobbying groups in the world, which has now become the crypto lobby becomes exponentially more powerful and is not entirely one-sided, but effectively is very much so aligned with your party. Why would you not want that sort of group that has pushed such a successful campaign in 2024 to become exponentially more powerful? And all you have to do is throw some bones to crypto, give some legal clarity, if we see a Bitcoin strategic reserve, that would be awesome. I think we'll see parts of it, but I don't know if we'll see a, hey, the US government's out there buying 1,000 Bitcoin a day type thing. I think that it's going to be probably more subtle. You'll need Congress to actually do that. But it's very, very clear to me that they will be doing everything they can from the federal level. That's very easy from the federal branch to make life not only easy and hospitable, but even give some serious advantages to crypto companies building in the United States. And that is going to drive massive, like the people who have been on the sidelines, who are some of the smartest people in the world that just wouldn't get involved with crypto before there were clear lines where you could participate, where they knew that they weren't going to have some massive essential legal risk coming into this industry. Those people are going to jump in. And what we've seen here over the last few months is really an important moment. And I'll tell you why this DeFi summer moment is history repeating in such a good way. And it's not exactly what you think. So give me a second to sort of fully illustrate this point. It is going to be fun here as well when we, so as you see here, the Sailor tracker keeps track. Oh, I'm not showing this. The Sailor tracker keeps tracking. For the first time now, he's got a decent execution. But I find this funny. Michael Saylor, he never gets a good price. I've never seen him do a bottom buy ever on the chart. And like I said, it's pretty easy to spot when the charts are very, very bearish. You'd think that he should come in with these massive pushes at the lows, but he just buys mostly the top all the time. But it works for him. If it works for you, stick with it. Shout out to you, Michael Saylor. All right, so back to this DeFi summer moment, which is that this AI and agents craze. And here's Neo from Wilder World. We're seeing a lot of conflation between real innovation and token valuation. And I think that the AI agent thing is going to be massive because agents, if you heard Jensen Huang, are going to drive the next year of AI tech development. But token valuations always go through hype waves, right? And that's because token valuations rely on how much liquidity is in the room to jump in and buy those tokens. So you're not going to have money being created out of nothingness. You need more participants in the industry in order to have progress with token valuations. So while the AI agent hype was, in my opinion, a breakout sort of DeFi summer moment, what it really is a signal that if you're building something hardcore in AI, come try it in crypto. And that is going to be a trend of over the next year. And AI agents and their value proposition, meaning how useful they are, is going to explode. But their valuations in market will be dependent on market factors, which is why they won't be the only narrative. And I will go back to buying stuff that is generally high quality in the AI sector that has great tokenomics and is a high quality team. That is my approach. That is still my approach. Nothing's changed. But buying just blindly just because it says AI agent, I don't think that is going to be the path to riches. And I think that the AI agent meta is just part of a larger AI umbrella. That's my general thesis, is that AI agents are just a new way to see how AI is being used, and it will take place across the AI sector and across a lot of other sectors. We're also seeing DeFi with AI pop off right now. But So that's why I put up this tweet here, which is essentially saying that, and I likened where we were to August 2020, which after August 2020, we saw a total collapse in valuations for the next month or so before the biggest bull run of all time. Solana came down from $5 to $1 and then rallied up to $260 or whatever. So this is the reality, which is that we saw this over frothy moment. But that over frothy moment was able to bring in some of the best and brightest minds into crypto and created a much bigger expansion that then led and drove wealth effects into all parts of the ecosystem. L1s, gaming, metaverse, NFTs, all of these things exploded on the back of this sort of innovation catalyst, where you have this new use case for crypto that becomes very exciting. And then you have sort of an initial hype wave, a cool off, and then you have a lot of stuff grow from that sort of cooled off area when you see, okay, 6 months later, 3 months later, wow, this stuff not only isn't dead, but it's thriving. That's very interesting. But I want to be clear, the real value of AI agents will continue to grow. Whether or not their valuations skyrocket all the time, that's dependent on crypto native attention, liquidity, the same cyclical factors that will drive every other altcoin. And so remember, a lot of these tokens don't do anything. It's more about betting on attention and hype. And I believe AI is going to be one of the main categories, just like I believe gaming is going to be one of the main categories. And I believe memes will be one of the main categories. Those are my three categories. I have my majors, and then I have my gaming AI memes. Nothing has changed since early 2023. And I hope you guys appreciate that nothing has changed here. Yes, you get new flavors and new reasons, but remember, the whole bet on AI was that AI is going to keep iterating and improving. That's why AI is so cool. It's just going to keep iterating and improving. memes, because everyone, at this point, memes as these parabolic assets with these hardcore communities, they're proven ways. And I think that this is the first real legitimate cycle for memes where they're not just this outside joke, but like sort of unexpected joke. This is like now memes have become kind of industrialized, and it's the first cycle of that. And then gaming, you have the first cycle where there's real games like that have potential to hold players based on their gameplay. And I believe that once the market takes off, and you'll see this in my 2025 predictions video, but you're going to see the rise of a new type of play to earn. I think play to earn is not only not dead, but it's going to have a massive return, this time with really, really addictive games. It's going to be a really interesting fusion. So those three categories, I'm sticking with it. I haven't sold out. I haven't bailed on any of these coins. I'm still holding. Some of them are down a lot. Some of them are up a lot. I'm just holding them because I think that 2025 is going to be the magic year, just like it has been every other time. So having a plan, sticking to the plan intensifies. If you appreciate that, smash the like button, because it's not easy to stick to the plan all the time, year over year, as there's so much volatility. But I just really, really believe this is the right approach. Okay. So once again, to summarize, why is this not the end of the bull run? The orange man signal. That's it. I think it's just insane to me. It's just insane to me that you would want to jump out and sell your coins before the first ever crypto president comes to office. It makes no sense at all. And there's so much power within that executive office, even not only through policy, not only through literal liquidity, but through influence, sheer influence of everyone knows that Trump loves to have people sort of cater to him. He appreciates that. He likes when people kiss the ring. And people will do that. We saw that already. Every tech leader has shown up, bent the knee, said, thank you, Trump. The people who donated $500 million against him last election cycle in 2020, they were there kissing the ring. And so the influence that he has by putting this as a top agenda item, it's something that I would like to be at the table for. Now, there is a risk that I'm wrong, as always. There is a mad risk that I'm wrong. All this stuff is very risky. You want to make it overnight here, over 3 years, whatever, overnight. There's a risk that you don't. So that's what I'm doing. Chips are on the table. I would like to see what happens here with Mr. Crypto President. It's very, very exciting. And this is pretty much the thesis right now, is that we have the best macro backdrop from regulation, from liquidity that can be driven into markets. Obviously, right now, the 10-year sort of up and down is calling into question. Like the market is sort of calling the bluff on the Fed, saying you can't cut any more rates. We'll see what happens. I mean, Scott Bessent over at the Secretary of Treasury will have a ton of leeway to be able to stimulate markets, just like Janet Yellen has through stealth QE throughout the last several years here. Janet Yellen has been putting tons of liquidity into markets. So just keep that in mind. And yes, this is now a totally unpopular opinion, but we are going to get an alt season. I believe that. In DeFi summer, it was not alt season, right? If that's the moment we're in, that was not alt season. There was pockets of outperformance. There was a few coins that exploded, but there was not a widespread amount of explosion in altcoins. And so I believe that is now this guy, and this meme is like I'm willing to stand up and say it when no one else is. We're getting an alt season. Shout out to Doug Funny. This is exactly how I feel, which is that once the market really kicks off, we will see altcoin season the way people conventionally define it. And that's not going to be every coin pumping, but like the strong ones in the main narratives will explode. And I think it'll be pretty exciting. We'll talk a little bit here as to how I plan to spot the top. In fact, that's going to be its own video, but there is going to be an alt season. That's my base case, and nothing's changed. Nothing's changed here because we haven't seen the social metrics. We haven't seen the liquidity metrics that we need to see to even say we're at a near a bull market top. So why would we see an alt season which come near bull market tops? The core ingredients aren't present yet, and yet we're still at 100,000. Many alts are up 20, 30x from the low. Some meme coins have gone 1,000,000x. I mean, I have no idea how many x's it is from 1K market cap to 2 billion or whatever. But there has been incredible performance in the market without an alt season. And so to me, that's a positive, not a negative. Just depends on how you look at it. Now, quick shout out to our sponsor, NordVPN. I've been forgetting to include them in videos, but really, I promise you guys, you're going to want to grab NordVPN. They are the best VPN and they sponsor the channel. I appreciate it. Way to stay safe out there in the interwebs. Definitely make sure you have a NordVPN discount code in the description below. You can get a massive discount by using my link, and I appreciate it. Shout out to Nord. Okay, on to the altcoins the most important altcoins. And here we have Solana, and this was back in August of 2020. You can see it was up here at I think it touched $5, came all the way down to $1.40. And then, the rest is history, obviously. But, this moment felt very much so like it's so over. And it kind of went down only from the end of August until, what was this? It had its only first impulse back in November. And it kept really didn't even finally bottom until pretty much January, right? And so you had this, what is that? 4 months or so? September, October, November, December. Yeah, you had 4 months or so of just depressing down. And then it goes, what? From this point, it goes 200x or whatever. So you can't say that just because an altcoin falls apart that it's bearish, or that just because an altcoin's falling that it's not going to be good in the main part of the bull run. It really comes down to, do you believe there will be a main part of the bull run? And that's a decision that you have to make for your own finance. If you believe that, which I believe, I'm certainly in this boat riding with an unconscionable amount of coins in the market. So I believe that. And so to me, these dips are, yeah, it sucks to see, but it doesn't invalidate the thesis. So that's why I do everything thesis driven, because something like a Solana, which if you ask me, Solana is still the main coin of this cycle. Nothing has changed with that. The amount of users, developer activity, the percentage of market share that Solana has gained over Ethereum over the last 2 years is insane. And if there's going to be a mass onboarding to one blockchain, it's either going to be Base or Sol. But currently, it's looking more like Sol. I do think Base is going to get a ton of users. I think it's going to be an amazing explosion, and it's going to be the best thing for ETH. But right now, it's Solana, baby. And it's still the Sol cycle in a lot of ways. And I'm still rotating. And when I start rotating my profits, I haven't taken a lot of profits yet, or any profits yet. But when I do start taking my profits, I'm going to take them into Solana, as I've said. So throughout the early part of the year, I'm going to be throwing stuff into Solana, little bit by little bit. And that's how I plan to exit the market, is once evaluations are up and you start seeing, 5x, 10x growth after Bitcoin, has sort of chilled out after a big move. We haven't seen that yet. But then I'm going to start sort of, instead of trying to find the ultimate market top, you just take little bits of coins each week and you sprinkle it out. And I think we'll, based on what I'm seeing, I think we'll see at least a major top in Q1 or Q2. But after all of this sort of down and negative vibes we've seen since that since the late run last year, I don't think that's going to be it. I mean, my gut tells me we'll see this cycle last pretty deep into 2025. Probably towards the end. I'm not going to bet all my cash and wait till the last minute to press the button at the top. I'm going to take a nice blended approach starting in late Q1, early Q2, depending on how things go. But right now I'm holding everything, and I'm just going to start rotating things early in the cycle into Solana, or your favorite piggy. I call it the piggy bank coin. You take your piggy bank coin, the coin you're bullish on, and you rotate coins into that. If you think some other coin is going to be an easier thing to do, Bitcoin, whatever you want to do, Solana to me embodies kind of like the altcoin market in a lot of ways. And so I think that, $800 is still my base case. I made the call back in 2023. I'll probably start selling a bit of Solana over 600 and then look to sell more significantly if it hits that 800. But I'll be holding quite a bit of Solana because there's a chance here that if it does get this massive retail onboarding, that it could hit much higher prices into the thousands. We'll see what happens there. Again, that's not a guarantee, but it is within the realm of possibilities in my mind. I do think though that I think it's going higher personally. That's my guess. Again, you have to make the decision as to whether you believe me, whether you agree with my thesis, but in the end, it's a percentage likelihood we go up, a percentage likelihood we go down. And then I highly suggest you take a blended approach to exiting, because timing tops is much harder than timing bottoms. I mean, it's very clear right now. You're seeing despair all over the timeline. It's not as clear. Euphoria comes with very different signatures each time. It's hard to see. Now, Euphoria in virtuals, for example, which I think is an amazing protocol, but I was sidelined on it because obviously, despite it being an amazing protocol, it just went from 0 to multi-billions right off the bat. And it's having its first major correction. And this could come all the way down. Let's see, its all-time high here was $5. It could come down to 50 cents or 60 cents, and it could still be bullish. You know what I mean? Like, this is essentially a very dominant protocol in the AI space. It allows you to launch AI agents. So it could still be bullish, right? I mean, you just have to wrap your head around that being a reality, that coins that go through these parabolic ups can have 80, 90% corrections and still be good coins, right? In fact, I wanted to do. I mean, respect to the virtual community. I actually am looking forward to it collapsing more, so I can buy some more with size. Of course, assuming the developer activity and the agent activity continues to either grow or at least maintain its current pace, then that would be great. I mean, that would just mean that you're getting a great asset for cheaper. Remember, valuation and usefulness are not tied at the hip here. So people are looking at these collapses of virtuals and AI16Z. Is that what this is? Where is AI16Z? Yeah, people are looking at the collapses here of virtuals and AI16Z, and they're saying, this is, they're screaming bloody murder on the timeline, saying, the AI agent thing was just a hype wave. It has no value, whatever. Again, predicting the actual winners of AI is going to be very hard to do. But just because a chart comes down after going from, what was this, 2 cents up to $2.50, over 100x, like there's going to be retraces. So that doesn't mean that everything that these coins stood for is bad. In fact, I think that if you were to compare this again to DeFi Summer, looking at things like Solana, looking at things like, what was a good one, is Sushi. I mean, obviously it looks horrible now, but going back to DeFi Summer, I mean, you had this thing pop up to $7.02, $7.20. And then it came all the way down to 50 cents. I mean, that is, you think pain. That's a sandy cucumber in the what. That is a horrible pain, okay? And so Sushi Swap is a great example of like a DeFi Summer coin that everyone thought was, in its really expensive moment at its first like week or two. It got this explosive valuation and then just went to zero. And then it goes on to do insane value over that. I went up to do like $22. Obviously, there was a ton of issues with Sushi Swap that were outside of this, but they built out their protocol and it worked and it became dominant. And so, this whole DeFi early wave of excitement and then this trough of despair and then this explosion of value. I mean, from this point, it was, what was this, 6 months or so, right? So it's not instant, but I'm just showing you that just because something goes up to a high price and then drops down doesn't mean that that's over. That could mean, if we are likening this to DeFi Summer, that AI agents have a much bigger wave in 2025. And certainly, if you think about it, the agentic part of AI agents. Let me just bring this up here because Jensen Huang, agentic. Let me see if I can find this photo. Jensen Huang had this image of him. Yeah, here it is. So Jensen Huang did this presentation at CES 2025, and he says, look, this is where we are right now. We're at agentic AI, and this is going to be the story where you have agents spread throughout the workplace, spread all over society, and they are assisting on a level of humans. And that's what he believes this year is all about. You heard Sam Altman saying you're going to be able to replace mid-level software engineers with agents this year. I mean, regardless of what you think of the valuations of AI agents right now in crypto, the usefulness of this technology is only just getting started. And the ability to intertwine that with crypto, because a lot of people have no way to make money on agents. A lot of agent startups will not have the ability to monetize the same way. So kind of like the reason why I think Web3 gaming will eventually not only consume Web2 gaming, but eventually Web2 gaming will cease to exist is because the ability to build something new requires capital, requires community, requires all these basic things that are so easily bootstrapped in crypto. And that's why crypto creates these things out of thin air so quickly. Of course, when you can create something out of thin air so quickly, the value takes a while to catch up. But that can happen during that trough of despair before you get your second wave. And so just because agents are going through this massive cool off, which they were due for, doesn't mean they won't be the big story of 2025. I mean, I'm in the camp of believing agents are going to be extremely useful, and you should be looking at how to use them for yourself, for trading, for research, for managing your own businesses. Certainly, that's what I'm looking at how to do for myself. How can I make better content leveraging AI? How can I write better scripts? Obviously, I don't actually use scripts, but if I did use scripts, how would I use them? How can I have better data to present to the audience? How can I streamline the different projects, the several projects that I'm working on, from Superverse to Imposters to Neo Tokyo to a different project that I haven't announced yet? All the things that I'm trying to do for the holders, how can I do those better? So those are the things that I'm looking at. How can I use agents for? And they're going to be extremely useful this year. Now, their valuations in crypto will come and go through hype waves, but I believe those hype waves my base case here is that the hype wave for 2025 has not happened yet. And if you believe that, then these are good prices, right? These are sort of that's the way you should see it, is if you believe this goes forward, then the dip that we're experiencing, especially with this complete flush out in alts, would represent an opportunity. Doesn't mean we can't go lower. I don't know where the ultimate bottom is, but I can tell, kind of like when I said 60K was anything under 60K, I was looking at a massive opportunity. Pretty much if you bought anything under 60K during the cool off in 2024, you did great as we exploded to new highs. And I think of that kind of this 90K level is like the new 60K. If there's anything below 90K, that's like, you've done great. In my opinion. Of course, if we go down to zero, wasn't great. But if we continue on this bull run like I think we're going to, then you did great. Okay. Another indication here, that's not good. Another indication here of strength is, of course, Dogecoin. I mean, Dogecoin is pretty much the biggest indicator of whether or not the markets are doing well. In a bear market, it's a dead heartbeat. And then as you get bullish again, it works its way up. I mean, again, this is, it's promising. It's really promising. Let me see if I can get past this, this initial wave here. Yeah, no, it just kind of exploded so quickly in early 2021. It's not really a good comp. But I mean, look at these prices. Dogecoin at 33 cents. It was just up here at 30, at what was this, 40 something cents? Topped over 40 cents recently. Yeah, 41. I mean, that's incredible. I would not have thought Dogecoin got back to 40 cents that easily, but here we are. And I think that it's a massive barometer for retail risk. And we're just warming up. Again, social metrics are still ice cold, Pepe, again, still almost 20x where we covered it first here in 2023. And yet people are, feeling like this is the end of times. Things have done really, really well. I mean, the chart is still well intact. Pepe is still, what is it, 6.7? Yeah, it's still above this peak, around this peak from last year that it cooled off from. That's now trying to serve as a support. So some of the leaders in memes, again, when it comes to memes, I should say this because I didn't make this clear. I'm only betting on top memes now. I think it's fun to always speculate on the next meme, but we've seen that almost none of these memes really have staying power except for a small crop. And even now, the crop that's gotten above $1 billion, like the Popcats, have gone through tremendous pain. So being a bigger meme doesn't mean you're guaranteed to do well, but I believe that the centralized exchange listed memes will do very well once main retail hit. I mean, that's still the thesis. Obviously, we will see. I think the trenches, we've seen horrible stats around the trenches. I mean, it's very hard to make money buying on pump fund. You have to be extremely, extremely good. It's like playing a sport. I think people who get good at it get really good, like a game or a sport. But it takes a lot of reps, and most people get completely crushed before they get good. I think the meme coin game for the rest of us, just like the reason why I was buying Pepe in late 2023, was because it was just very clear. I was like, look, this is the leader. The thing hit over $1 billion out of nothing. And as it settled in here, I think we were covering it in this around $400 million range, a little bit lower. It hit over, what was this, 12 billion? It's just incredible gains, right? And that was the too big one. Everyone, oh, it's too big already. No, it wasn't. 30x, 20x, it's good. It's good. No one's going to turn their nose up at 20x you can kind of size into. It's crazy. So I think that the next one that kind of checks all the boxes, like I said, is Pudgy. The Pengu token to me is, I think it's going to be up there with Pepe, with Mog. Those are kind of my meme picks: Pepe, Mog, and Frog, or Mog, Frog, and Pengu. I really just can't say enough about how good Luca and the team over there as Pudgy Penguins are. We were covering Pudgies in the bear market under 10 ETH. And in US dollar value, it was over if you bought one Pudgy Penguin, it was over 6 figures growth. And they've now dropped almost 6 figures. I think it was like $80,000 per penguin worth of Pengu token, depending, of course, on the prices here. And on top of that, you're getting Abstract token, which is their L2, which they have a ton of stuff going on for. So you're getting 2 major airdrops with an over 6-figure gain in the underlying asset. I mean, what can you say? They're executing like maybe one of the best execution teams that this industry will ever see. The way that they've built out the IP on mainstream social media, incredible. So Pudgy Penguins to me, if I'm going to bet on a meme, makes sense, right? Fartcoin, wow, oh my god, look at that explosive! I didn't even see that. Here, let me minimize this. I didn't even look at this. Look at this blast off here. This is all today, right? Yeah. What the hell? Woo. Anyway, I said this on my last video. I mean, look, there's every now and then there's a coin that just tickles people the wrong way. And in this case, the traditional finance world, like mainstream audiences, can't handle Fartcoin. They can't deal with it. It short circuits their brain. That's why I know that wherever this market goes, as long as there is a bullishness in this market, Fartcoin dips are essentially for buying, right? Because it has this tech lore. It's part of this AI agent lore. It was this bot that Mark Andreessen gave $50,000 to, Truth Terminal, created Goat CS Maximus, but then they dug into the code and its thought processes, and they found out that it actually had created this concept of Fartcoin before. So there's this lore to it that is AI based, and come on, it's hilarious. Everyone in the world thinks farts are funny. It is a universal. There's no one on earth that disagrees. Farts are funny, right? Can you smash like if you think farts are funny? I mean, it's a universal truth. It's a universal truth. I don't know. I can't imagine a fart not being funny. Okay. Some of the darlings of the channel. Let me get to this. Neural AI, obviously, we first talked about it here in this run up here around $3 or so. And it came down to $1, which was the great entry here, which I actually said it here, don't buy it yet, let it cool off. And it came down here to about $1. And then it's just been rampaging ever since. And after it broke through this sort of high $5 range, it never came and retested. And I've been saying every time I cover it, I'm like, look, this thing's going to come back and retest some levels. And it finally retested this breakout around $10, but it could actually come down and still retest, in my opinion, these high $5 figures. And it still could be bullish for Neural, just because of how quickly it went up. You know, charts like to go and revisit territory. But again, this just shows you AI doesn't have to be just agents, though Neural did pivot into agents. AI in general has the mind share. And so AI mid caps and AI fair launch coins are just a great place to be shopping. And that's why I liked Neural, and it fits all the criteria. Where is my Destra as well? Another darling of the channel. Again, sort of failed this breakout, but I think when AI comes, just having a bucket of AI coins like Hash, like Destra, all the ones that I covered on my recent video, those are the coins that I don't feel bad owning. Akash is one of the leaders in DPIN. Been a brutal sort of been a brutal year for it since 2024, but I'm still holding, I'm still validating on the network. DPIN still makes all the sense to me, and I'm excited for it to get a full real bull run here with AI and its sales. Let's see what happens. The DPIN narrative isn't front and center right now, but I think that it will get another rotation just because NVIDIA is still the main company and DPIN is the closest thing you can get to sort of an NVIDIA proxy. Again, build the thesis and it makes sense. And then Taobot, obviously this price went up a lot, could easily come back and revisit a lot of these lower figures, but Taobot is the only real proxy to the biggest AI ecosystem, which is BitTensor. None of these other AI plays, I mean, obviously Neural is on BitTensor, but Taobot makes a ton of sense. It's the gateway to BitTensor. So if they accomplish their goals, their tech's supposed to roll out here in sort of February, March. If they accomplish their goals, could be massive, right? And that's why I have no problem holding Taobot, seeing what happens. Because if we get this bull run and we get another AI season, which is inevitable, then Taobot's going to become a really, really interesting play. And if they do monopolize all this sort of bridge into BitTensor world, because nobody even knows what's going on in BitTensor because it's so hard to get in there. But if Taobot simplifies that onboarding and gateway to BitTensor, which is where a lot of the hardcore AI teams are, not like the, hey, we're going to make an AI agent meme or this or that. It's kind of playing into the crypto Twitter culture. But these are like the hardcore AI science teams. If you make a gateway where people can easily get in, who knows what I mean, I think it could easily run to $1 billion in a crazy market. So I have no problem holding my Taobot for an extended period of time. Again, where is... Obviously, Super. I mean, I'm not going to pull up the price chart because I don't do that. But I will say I'm super excited by all the stuff coming for Superverse next year. I'm so excited by all the tech developments, by the partnerships, by the upcoming news, by all the games coming to market. And I believe that from a narrative standpoint, I believe that what we'll see here is you'll see a wave of bullishness that'll hit the big coins. They'll hit probably AI first. And then you'll see a wealth effect that will translate into things like NFTs, that will translate into things like play to earn, that will translate into things like gaming that maybe those might carry the second half of the bull run, kind of like they did the 2021 bull run, because they were dependent a little bit more on a wealth effect. Those are very interesting areas that I'm just going to hold because I'm so excited about the future there. And to me, crypto gaming is the mass adoption application layer. A lot of people get frustrated because crypto gaming tokens haven't pumped. Believe me, I want them to pump too, but nothing changes the thesis. And I have such a strong thesis around this that not only am I excited about it, but we keep building stuff because we are so convinced that this is the layer for mass consumer adoption for crypto. And I want to be there. It's only so many times where you feel like you have a bet that's so likely to play out that is still so underdeveloped. And that's why I'm so attracted to the crypto gaming narrative. And that's why I'm such a big believer in everything we're building at Superverse. I think that there's just an asymmetric bet here that I would be very, very upset with myself if I didn't go fully into. So nothing's changed. Gaming, AI, memes. I believe that memes are still this mass retail phenomenon. Retail love fart jokes. They love Pepe the Frog. They're going to love the Penguins. And I think they're going to love Mog. I think those are just solid bets. So I've got my meme bags. Obviously, I've been talking about all those since many X's ago, aside from Pengu, which just came out. As far as the AI stuff, mid-cap AI, fair launch, that has good marketing, fair tokenomics, all of the criteria you'd want in a good coin and in the highest mindshare narrative. We're seeing that the mindshare in the narrative for AI goes up kind of in tandem. Yes, Virtuals was the star, but Neural went up 12x, something major like that, went up to over 100 million from very small. You see all these coins can move kind of in lockstep, even if you're not in the biggest of the big. I mean, by the time anyone knew how big Virtuals was going to be, it was already trading at 7, 8, $900 million. So from $900 million to 5 billion, yeah, you got a 5x, maybe a 10x. Which is about what you got out of Neural, right? And so these coins can trade in lockstep gains-wise, even if you're not in the darling. Being in the right narrative is the key. And so build the thesis, find the coins. You don't buy the coins in this video if you don't like them. I don't care. Find coins that you believe in and build a thesis, and then ask yourself the question, are we going to get this next wave of the bull run? Again, no one can know for sure, but you have to decide. Is all of this upcoming excitement from Trump, from the people he's putting into office, from all of the Dixies at all-time highs, they can weaken the dollar and still be the most important currency in the world by orders and orders of magnitude. So the consequences are not very extreme from weakening the dollar here versus other currencies. And if the United States starts stimulating a bit, weakening the dollar, then all the other countries can do that. And they want to, they desperately need to. China is dying to stimulate. The UK is dying to stimulate. All of these places are dying to stimulate. Because their economies are not doing well. So there's a lot at play here. And I think when you look at what comes next, to me, the risk of being sidelined for the first real legitimate crypto president, crypto administration is crazy. I just couldn't see myself being sidelined. So anyway, I'll hop in. I'll say some shout outs to the chat here. And then we can wrap it up. I mean, that's pretty much all I have. Dutch Oven coin, please. That's funny. Yeah, I mean, look, I see a lot of questions here about AI stuff, and there's a lot of AI stuff that's of value. What I will say is that it's more a question about being associated to the narrative, and you can play around with it, but the experimentation and value of these agents is not going to determine necessarily the valuation. You're going to have hype waves, and hype waves always end the same because they have the same characteristics of overvaluation, overexcitement. I mean, Virtuals is an amazing protocol, but $5 billion, I mean, none of these protocols in crypto can justify with US dollars real world value what they're doing. So it's all just determined by speculation, right? And so don't get lost in the sauce. There can be very cool coins, but once the narrative heats up or cools down, that will be stronger in determining number go up or number go down. I believe that you want to have some allocation to each narrative, but if you find yourself thinking that having 50 AI agents is diversification, I think you're nuts. And I think you don't understand diversification in crypto. Anyway, that's it for me. We're ending the stream here. Bitcoin's at $94,000. When I started planning the stream this morning, Bitcoin was below 90. Again, the game remains the same, which is I'm excited for the bull run. I don't believe it's done. 2025. Pick coins and strong narratives. Hope this helped you guys. And again, pray for LA. I'll see you guys soon.